Data structures. Data structures are very useful in today's world. Every type of data is stored in a structured form to make our life easy. Data structure is a way of collecting and organizing data in such a way that we can perform operations on these effectively. Data structures are used in many places, such as, for example, in your colleges where you store new admissions and old admission people informations, etc. So it can be their name, age, their registration number, their fees, their section, etc. etc. Now let us look into some basic terminologies of data organization. The first one is data. The term data simply refers to a value or a set of values. Now these values can be anything. It can be roll numbers, students, marks, employees, etc. etc. Now there's one more term, that is data item. A data item refers to a single unit of value. Next we come to entity. Entity with similar attributes form an entity set. So basically entity is like the employee in the data is entity. Then we have roll number, that's one more entity, right? Now what's the difference between data and information, right? Information is basically processed data. Data that is given with attributes is called information. Records is the collection of field values of a given entity, and file is the collection of records of the entity in a given entity set. Now, what are the basic data types that we had seen in previous videos, right? It was like arrays, linked lists, stacks, graphs, etc. Right? Anything that can store data is called a data structure, like integer, float, boolean, chart, etc. Right? So let's look into the classification of data structures. Now, data structures are mainly classified into two types, that is simple data structure and compound data structure, right? Or it can also be called as primitive data structures and non-primitive data structures. Now, primitive data structures are the simple data structures, that are the integer, float, character, boolean, etc. And non-primitive data structures are then again further divided into two parts, that is linear data structure and non-linear data structure, right? Now, linear data structures are structures that are in a sequence, like arrays, stacks, queues, linked lists, etc. So we'll see all this later on in the video. And then we have non-linear, where we don't have a particular sequence or a hierarchy, right? It can be like trees, graphs, hash tables, etc. Right? Now, if I had to give you an example of array, right? So now, if I had to give you an example of array, we have seen previously also something like this, right? So we keep putting our values inside the box one by one. Stacks is like a stack of books, for example, you put on a table, right? You keep it on top of each other. Queue is like a queue you have for a ticket hall or something before outside a movie theater, right? You have one, two, three, all the values in a line. Linked lists are a better version of arrays, right? So in arrays, we can't add nodes or more memory, or if we don't use the memory, it's wasted, right? So linked list is a solution to all those. We'll see later on in the videos. Now tree is like for example, a family tree, right? So you have a grandparents, and then they have, for say, they have two kids, okay, then they get married and have one kid. This one does not have any kid, right? So there is no sequence or there's no similarity between the coming up nodes, right? Then we have graphs. Graphs are basically connection of data, right? So these are the points, and then they are connected by some sort of information, right? And hash table will be seeing it later on in the video, right? So these are the basic data structures that we'll be seeing on later on. Now let's look into some of the basic operators, right? So data in data structures are processed by certain operations. The particular data structure chosen largely is dependent on the frequency of the operation that is needed to be performed on the data structure. Now first one is transversing. Now transversing is accessing each record exactly once, right? So that for example a certain item in a record can be processed. So you can call it one by one. Then we have searching. So searching is the finding of the location of a particular record with which the given value or the location of the records are satisfied in one or more conditions. So basically when you search a particular record with a given value or a location or anything like a pointer, it's called searching. Then we have insertion. Adding new records to any structure is basically called inserting or insertion, and removing the records from the structure is called removing or deletion. Right? Then we have sorting. Okay, so sorting is managing of data or record in a logical order. For example, whenever you have a data, you always arrange it in some manner. It can be in ascending order. Maybe if you have a list of students in your class, then you will have starting from alphabetical order or roll number wise, some sort of order. So it's called sorting. And then we have merging, which, as the name suggests, is a combining of two records of different sort of files into a single sorted file, right? So that is it for what we are doing in this one. Later on, I'll tell you about the different types of data structures in detail.